All right, friends, time to settle down. Happy New Year. Yay, it's so nice to be back with all of you. Welcome to the 5,418th meeting of the 9th largest Rotary Club in the world. I'm so glad we're all together. Nicholas, come on up and lead us in song.
Thank you, Madam President. Would you please all stand and join me in a song you all know? Don't forget, I have to give this reminder from time to time. I'm not here to put on a show. I'm here to lead you all in song. So I expect to hear you. Your New Year warning there, okay? Nice and loud. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean, white with foam, God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you.
I must have done all right this time because first daughter Charlie is here and she didn't tell me to stop singing, so I take that as a sign I did okay. All right, guys, settle down, please. Please join me in thanking Heather Lerner, who is our president-elect and chair of the Gala Committee, for being in the greeting line today. And while we don't have any birthdays on this very day, we have many people celebrating from the 1st through the 5th. So please take a look. Be sure to wish them a happy birthday if you run into them. And now it's time for guest introductions and to our Red Badge members who will be staffing the mics. Eddie Trong and Fred Buzo, please briefly introduce yourselves. Fred, we'll start with you.
Hello, my name is Fred Buzo. I've been a Rotary member since July, and thank you, and glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And Eddie.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eddie Trong. I am new to Rotary. I just joined in October, but I was out of the country in Italy and France for that time. So I will say that I joined in November.
And we're so happy you did. Welcome. Okay, Rotarians who are visiting and those who have guests, please stand. As a reminder, we'll be going clockwise so it's easier for our Zoomers. So let's start with Deanna Kaikai, please. Oh.
I can start. So Tai Tai is our dear Rotarian, and this is Tian Yu, and she is Tai Tai's grandniece.
Oh, wonderful.
And a doctoral candidate in education from the University of Miami in Florida.
Wonderful. Welcome, soon-to-be doctor. We'll address you properly. Let's see. Who's got Fred? Or who's got the microphone next? Okay. Mitch.
Hello, Happy New Year, President Karen. Today, my son Noah has decided to join me on this Christmas vacation.
Noah, we missed you at the Christmas in the Park party, and we hope you come back next year. Jeff.
Madam President, I have two guests today. My caregiver, Tanaya, and her husband, Johanna Schweitzer. Tanaya is a marvelous singer and sings with the chorus of the San Jose Symphony and other groups in the Bay Area. Her husband, Johanna Schweitzer, was educated in Germany, received a degree in medical research, and then a PhD in genetics from the Louis Pasteur Institute in Paris. He travels to many areas of Africa, India, and the South Pacific to evaluate the detection of cervical cancer, malaria, and other tropical diseases. Please welcome Tanaya.
Welcome. Yes, Jeff.
President Karen, Happy New Year. Jeff here, Real Estate and Mediation. I am really pleased here to introduce my guest, Ben Taylor, General Manager of the San Jose Giants.
Woohoo! Go Giants! James.
James Williams, nonprofit CFO. I'm happy that I am able to share the excitement of Rotary with two of my closest friends. I have Scott Brown, who works with, Oracle, sorry, I blanked on that, and his husband, Alex Fitzpatrick, who works with Cisco.
Wonderful. Welcome. Janica.
Good afternoon, everyone. Janica Clem, banking at Heritage. I just want to introduce someone I'm really thrilled to have here with us today, Ryan Sebastian from Movable, who has been instrumental in doing a lot in our community, bringing lots of festivals and fun stuff to San Jose and beyond, and he is thinking about joining. So welcome, Ryan Sebastian.
Welcome. Leslie, where are you pointing? Okay.
Hi, Steve Preminger, a Red Badger. I'm here today to introduce Kathy Cordova, the Executive Director of Recovery Cafe, a program we'll be hearing more about in a little bit.
Wonderful. Welcome. Carl Salas.
Hey, President Karen. So Gary's quite a draw. I just put a little thing out. A bunch of colleagues and neighbors and friends said, hey, can I hear him? Can't wait to hear you, Gary. Anyway, so I've got Steve Cohen here. He owns property downtown. He's been around for a long time. He built us a couple of beautiful properties downtown. Michael Trappini, some of you might know him. He's a developer down here with Urban Catalyst. Eric Gladder, he wouldn't sit with me, but he's over there. Oh, that's right, okay. And then I've got Steve Wolford. He's a partner, a neighbor, a friend, and he's a wonderful guy. And, oh, Scott Brown, no, you took credit for that. Yeah. And then April Haberstedt, she's been in the neighborhood for 100 years, 50 years, thank you. Dear neighbor.
Well, welcome to all 8 of you. We're glad you're here. And finally, it's my pleasure to introduce the first family. First gentleman, Evan Mandel, my husband, and first daughter, Charlie Mandel, who's on break from school. Yay, all right, terrific. Well, I think that concludes our introductions. So nice to see you all here today. And again, a happy and warm festive new year to you. Let's have a Red Badge update. Kelly Dipple and Megan Tennisgetter, come tell us all the good things you've done. You know how to put this
All right, well, I'm excited to talk about our Red Badge project that we did in November. We did a project at Recovery San Jose, and I'll tell you a little about it first. Recovery San Jose launched in 2014. And it's a healing community for those traumatized by addiction, homelessness, and mental health challenges. And it helps people develop tools for stabilizing their recovery. Some of their programs include community meals, which include breakfast and lunch during the week, recovery circles for weekly peer support, job skills trainings, and other daily activities like health fairs, creative activities, and workshops. And San Jose Rotary has supported Recovery Cafe previously through a grant program, and Rotary donated the work van that the cafe still uses today. The cafe is our neighbor just over on 5th Street, and it has a cafe, coffee bar, classroom spaces, and a commercial kitchen. And we focused on in our project the annex space that includes administrative offices, donated clothing closet, food pantry, and additional restrooms. And Kelly's going to talk about what we did there.
Oh, there we go. No, there we don't go. Oh, there it is. Hi, so the Red Badge Committee met on the Saturday before Thanksgiving, which is a great kickoff to the spirit of giving for Thanksgiving. We met on a Saturday morning and we all came together to work really hard to help with some much needed updates and improvements within the facility, which included repairing some walls. We painted the bathrooms and the staircases. We reorganized and helped out with the pantry. We reorganized the pantry, the donation closet. We installed some light fixtures, some window treatments, and then we also detailed the van that Megan was speaking of. And we all had a really great time. We ended with pizza lunch, and then we took all the leftover pizza and we gave it to all the homeless in the community, which was really heartwarming. It was a really fabulous experience, I think, for all of us. A picture says 1,000 words, so we are going to end this with a quick little video so you can see our experience. So let's see if I can make this work.
If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can't count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah.
That was beautiful.
And that was our Red Badge project. If anyone who volunteered there, can you stand up real quick? I know there's some people who worked on it. Thank you, everybody. You were the real help. Thank you.
That was incredible. Really well done. Nicely done. Great presentation, and it reminds me of my Red Badge project where you create such synergy and you build those relationships with the cohort that you're entering Rotary with. Nicely done. Thank you for sharing. And a very special shout out to our 3 co-chairs of that committee, Matt Breaker, our president-elect, Karen Sininu-Towery, and of course, Steve Preminger, who's taken an incredible leadership role since joining Rotary, himself a Red Badger. Maggie, come on up and tell us about the float and all the exciting updates you have.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. So who watched television on Monday, New Year's Day, and looked at the Tournament of Roses parade? Anybody? Yeah, a few of you? Okay. Well, we have a Rotary float, and I want to tell you about the win that we received on that. But before I do, I'd like to just give you a little history and how we got involved. It was back in the day, 1923, when a group of Rotarians in Pasadena, California, heard about this parade and decided we want to be a part of that. It's good PR for us to be a part of this parade. And sure enough, here's their float. Yeah, it's a bit aged, but it's creative, you know, and it had a lot of the rotary wheels. They won the show that year. They did. And the legacy continues on with the Rotary float. It has evolved, it's transformed, it has a working machine that every year, after New Year's Day, after one float, we start a new one every year. And so getting to present day, as you could see, these are volunteers that are helping and volunteering to decorate the float. It's a volunteer collaboration of Rotarians and Rotaractors and Interactors. It's really fun. It's fellowship. It's one of my favorite projects. I've been on the committee for 5 years now, and it really helps me enjoy being a Rotarian and being a part of this. But the float won an award that I want to share with you. It's the Leishman Public Spirit Trophy Award for the most outstanding floral presentation for a non-commercial participant. And that's a big deal because they only give out 24 trophies. And think about it, there's about over 80 to 100 floats, right? And here we are, we won one of those trophies. We've won them in the past too, by the way. I could spend time on this, but I don't have the time. I can't talk too much. Oh, I do. Oh, boy. Oh, wow. I just love it. I love to talk. I do. I really, really do. But let's get back to reality here. Think about how many people were there. There were 800,000 spectators. It's broadcasted nationwide and internationally. It's really the best PR for Rotary International. And if you could see in the float, there's a rider. There are two riders. There's our RI president, Gordon McNally, and his lovely wife, Heather. And it's a job when you participate. You have to smile and dial. You know, you have to, and the song was Singing in the Rain. I wonder why. And also the theme was Clean Water, the Music of Life. And we do a lot of that in third world countries. This gives us a chance to augment the special deeds we do every year with a different theme that accents the great stuff that Rotary does. And that's something to be proud of, by the way. All right, now, this is special. Our very own Matt Robin, who's here. Matt, you gotta give him a hand. You've heard of Mr. Bojangles. Well, this is Mr. Bagpipes. I love this guy. And I told him about the opportunity. He said, oh no, you don't know, there's these guys that are really good at this. I go, just try it out. Do the audition, forget about it, just do it. And he did, and he got in. So voila, big hand. All right? All right, now, I'm gonna show you a clip of the newscast, what they say. They do this for every float. Are we ready? Okay.
The Leishman Public Spirit Trophy goes to this float for most outstanding floral presentation from a non-participant commercial participant. It's time to get our ducks in a row, shall we say, and clean the water, the music alive presented by Rotary.
Well, that's I could show you more, but that's what we do. That's what we do. So anyway, now if anyone's interested in ever volunteering, let me know. I'll be working on 2025. I plan on decorating, and our new president, Stephanie Yurchik, will be the honorary chair and writer. Thank you very much, everybody.
I just love Maggie's enthusiasm, and what a beautiful float. Really well done. And Matt, don't you have two guests with you back there? Two little four-legged friends? Who do you have with us? Uh-huh. Oh, well, thank you for bringing them today. We love our four-legged family. All right, so just a couple of things during President's time. Maggie, you want to share the joke? Okay, so an up-and-coming event sponsored by the Fun and Friendship Committee, and that's another hike. It's going to be about a 4-mile hike at Allen Park starting at 11 a.m. on Saturday, January 20th. It's a light hike. We did it the last time. I took Charlie and one of her friends, and it was a wonderful 5-mile, really not too taxing hike, but a lovely time to be with our friends enjoying the outdoors. It'll be followed by a picnic lunch. Some people bring wine. I mean, it is Rotary after all, but be sure to RSVP if you're interested in getting some fresh air and some camaraderie on Saturday, January 20th. And then, of course, we have a reminder, because it is the second meeting of the month next week. We will have our table topics, which is sponsored by the Fun and Friendship Committee and really championed by Pat Riley and Doug Smith. And we'll have a little bit of a different tweak this coming week, but please join us early at 11:45 a.m. so we can have 30 minutes of fun and friendship and just getting to know each other better on a different level. Really love that. Thanks again to the leadership of the Fun and Friendship Committee. And then just 2 updates on past events. I want to do a special shout out once again to the Culinary and Hospitality Committee led by past president. And it was just Cindy Faulkner, pardon me. It was an amazing event. It was such a great way to kick off the season. And then, of course, the next night on Thursday, we had Christmas in the Park at the 88 in the Entertainment Lounge. And this year, Charlie, Evan, and I welcomed over 65 people. It was a rousing success and a really great time, followed by walking over to Christmas in the Park to tour all of the wonderful demonstrations. And a big shout out to Jeff Poley and his father, who was instrumental in developing this many, many decades ago. He joined us at the event and he walked through Christmas in the Park, and it was a very emotional and very fulfilling event for him because he hadn't seen what's occurred in the last 20 years. And he was one of the founding fathers. So we'll do it again in 2024. Mark your calendars. It'll be probably December 15th, but I'll confirm that later on in this year. And so now it is time for our guest speaker, and I'd like to invite Mark Lazzarini to join me to introduce one of our Rotarians, Gary Dillabough. Take it away.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Brad.
Good to see you. Thank you, President. So I first met Gary back in 2017, and I'm grateful to be able to call him my friend, partner, not just business partner, but community partner as well. Gary comes from tech and venture capital side of the tracks, and he knows how to, with a passion I might add, bring together community officials, technologists, other developers and builders to re-envision downtown San Jose. I like to refer to him as collaborator in chief. But anyway, Gary and his business partner at Urban Community, Jeff Arriaga, are bringing exciting changes to San Jose. Not only are they bringing world-class architecture, they're bringing world-class ideas. Where other developers have hit, especially in this changing, challenging environment of real estate, where other developers have hit pause or have cut and run, Gary and his partners are moving forward to bring excellence to San Jose. And so here to talk about his latest venture in excellence is Mr. Gary Dillabough. Please welcome him.
Right. Well, I think that Mark's point is that sometimes people go, why are you guys, my partner and I, Jeff, so enthusiastic at this point in time? We're coming out of COVID, we're coming out of a financial crisis, and we're still trying to figure out where the economy is going. But I really believe that this year, 2024, is going to be an extraordinary year for the city. And I think it's going to be a transformational year as long as we do three things. And the great thing about these three things, they're all within our control. First is we have to have a little different attitude. I've talked about this in the past. If you go to cities like Detroit or Nashville, and you talk to the officials there and thought leaders, as well as the politicians, they put together plans they really believe in. They get excited about and that they move forward. This city sometimes seems to lack self-identity or a bit of a brand, and it doesn't, I don't feel as good about itself as it should. And when you really back up, we've talked about this in the past as well, whether it's things like a world-class airport, some of the best weather in the world, some of the greatest technologies the world has ever known, technology companies, great universities. The list goes on and on and on. Most cities would kill to have 2 or 3 of these, and we are just rich with them. So how do we get comfortable and have confidence that this should be one of the best cities in the country? The second is you have to really rely upon collaboration. When you hear a great piece of music, you can have a bunch of great musicians in that orchestra, but unless they're playing together, you just don't have the optimized experience that you're looking for. And I see a lot of great organizations doing some very impactful things, but they seem to lack an ability to come together and say, how do we together do something that's going to be greater than what we're doing on our own? I think the mayor is doing a really good job starting to drive that kind of a discussion and trying to bring more and more people together, and I see movement there, but I think it's something that if we focused on in 2024, that we'd see significant change. And the last is really kind of talking about accountability. And I look at myself first and foremost. You get up and talk about these ideas, but how do you make sure they come to life? And what we're trying to do is our group is say, here are 3 or 4 things we want to do in 2024. And if we do a good job, that's great. Hopefully build some momentum and more people get involved. And if we're making mistakes, how do we kind of course correct? So the 3 things that I want to talk a little about today. Okay, is that better? There's a small idea, there's a medium-sized idea, and then there's a large idea. The small idea is how do you create vibrancy and activation in the city? Last year, we started a program called Block Parties. We had 4 block parties in 4 different districts in the city. And the great outcome of that was it demonstrated how small businesses could come together and drive a bit of their destiny. And the average retailer during those block parties experienced a 50% growth in their business. And some had 4x the amount of business they'd had in the past. So that's something we want to continue upon and expand. We're also working with partners like PG&E to figure out, how do we make downtown a little safer and cleaner with a program called Adopt-A-Block, and taking blocks at a time and creating great lighting in those areas. So we think that when things are safer, they become more vibrant, and it's good for the overall economic status of what's happening in downtown. So that's kind of our smaller ideas. Our medium-sized idea is creating something you guys might have heard of, artificial intelligence. This area is one of the most interesting and compelling areas in the country where this is being developed and driven forward. But a lot of these companies operate in silos. So our hope is to demonstrate that we can bring these companies together and really make them ensure that the spearhead of this initiative stays here in this valley. So we are working with Accenture right now to put together this AI Center of Excellence. It will live in downtown, and it'll be a place where young companies can come together, mid-sized companies can come together, and be surrounded by companies like Microsoft, IBM, NVIDIA, to demonstrate how initiatives and innovation is really kind of centered here. And we won't be the only center of excellence in the country, but I think we'll be one of the more important ones. So this is something we're hoping to launch in March. And I'm not sure if people in the room have heard of something called GTC, but GTC is similar to a Dreamforce conference that NVIDIA will have. It's March 18th to March 21st. 25,000 of the most thoughtful people in AI will be in San Jose. And they'll be here talking about what needs to happen in the future, how we can take advantage of it, how we can harness it. But that happens here. We're hoping to launch this initiative during that period of time. So that's kind of our medium-sized idea. The big idea, which I think will really unlock some interesting opportunities here in the Valley, is that we need better entertainment districts. We're finding now is people want better music, they want better food, they want something like if you go to a Nashville or if you go to San Diego, you see and experience something that's it's a great experience. Here we have 25 venues in downtown that can seat 55,000 people a night, every single day. So we have a great infrastructure already in place. Can we expand upon that? Can we look at things like what happened in Vegas with the Sphere, what's happened in places like Milwaukee with their new entertainment center? Can we take some of those ideas and using companies like the San Jose Sharks or other sports teams that we have here and build around that, but ultimately create some of the greatest music and theater and museum kind of infrastructure, certainly on the West Coast, if not again the country. The city is poised to be able to do those types of things. So our hope is that, ultimately, how do all these ideas lead to bigger concepts? How do we start to test some of these concepts with pilots? That's kind of like block parties. And that's where we want to end up. So, my hope is that as you start to look at these initiatives, how do we say, are they doing well or not? And that's where accountability really comes to play. And that's what we're hoping to do for ourselves. We're working with the Business Journal right now to look at a longitudinal kind of a overview of presentations to say, here are 4 major initiatives that this group is trying to do in 2024. How are they doing? What's their scorecard looking like? Similar to what the mayor is trying to do with City Hall, how do we make sure that our dollars are being spent in a thoughtful way? And we can really determine if City Hall is moving some of these initiatives forward as well. So that's something we're trying to do. I also believe that we need a chief marketing officer for this city. This city has so many resources. There's hundreds of billions of dollars of assets here that we have to find a way to tap into and tell that story, not just to people who live in Willow Glen or the Rose Garden or Almaden, but to Sunnyvale and Santa Clara, to San Francisco, to New York City, and to a much broader audience. I think this city deserves that. And I think once we have a person like that in place who's constantly putting that message forward, that we'll see a fair amount of change here. So those are the kind of things that we focus on. We do believe that metrics around accountability are really critical. And so you'll see us in March announcing these initiatives with metrics associated with them. And my hope is to get as many of you involved in these programs as possible. And if we can find ways to collaborate, we'd love to do that. We do a lot of stuff with City Hall right now and really believe that the mayor is on a path that's going to allow us to kind of come together more effectively and to drive some of these initiatives to scale. So that's kind of where we're going. What I'd love to do is take some questions or some thoughts from you all that really kind of figure out where you think we need additional help, where you want to kind of put some emphasis in 2024, and what you think it would take to kind of unlock some of these opportunities that we're talking about. So any questions or thoughts? Blair.
Just use the mic.
As you know, I spent a good part of my career, and I still live in Sunnyvale. And when I was mayor there, I was always upset by the fact that we didn't have the synergy metropolitan area that we have in other places. I'm from Seattle. If you live in Bellevue or Renton, you identify with Seattle as the center of the core. Same thing in many cities. We don't have that here. In fact, some cities in this county were created to stay out of San Jose. That's a shame, but what do you think about it?
You know, when you look at great technologies, you can have a great idea, but if a great idea doesn't scale, it really doesn't matter. It's not going to have the impact that you want it to have. And I think sometimes when you talk about this diffuse type of a rural kind of environment that we've created here in the Valley, it was a nice place to live if you lived in those areas. But over time, what we're finding is that you really need to have density and concentration. And when you look at the great cities of the world, they really embrace that. It's a different mindset for us here. It started to take off in San Francisco. You started to see some of the tech companies go there and starting to thrive. Then unfortunately, because of lack of leadership, that the city hasn't achieved what it could have, right? I think we have an opportunity to demonstrate with the leadership that we have right now that we can actually come together, and that density really matters. Because when you're a small business, you need density to help drive your businesses. So over time, I think these are the kind of demonstrations that we can prove out here in this downtown core that will really be beneficial. But you know, we can talk about it, but we have to really kind of show how it unfolds. In places like Sunnyvale or Santa Clara, we're never gonna have the opportunity to do that. That's why this is a really unique place at this point in time.
Thank you, Gary. Your enthusiasm and positive outlook and your ability to do things are very laudable, but I just can't see that it's a lack of leadership that we have this problem of homelessness that seems to be bringing down places like San Francisco. And this is presenting obstacles for everything that you've mentioned, because unless we resolve that issue, people don't feel safe walking around the tents and the encampments that we find. I don't know if you have any ideas you can share with the rest of our government officials.
Yeah, listen, that's a really tough question, obviously, and I wish I had the answer. If I would, I probably wouldn't be here right now. I think that this is one of those things. There's no silver bullet, but I think there are some really good tools that we're starting to see. I think the mayor's program about getting people off the street into temporary housing really makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think permanent housing is a long-term solution. That's where you want to get to, but you have to take incremental steps to get there. And my mom has some very severe mental health issues growing up. So when I see people on the street, sometimes I see my mom. And what I want to do is I hate walking by a person in distress. I think it's extraordinarily disrespectful of how we treat these people. And so my hope is that we can look at every single person on the street and bring the resources to kind of address these one at a time. We just seem to try to look at the big solution as opposed to there's a person right in front of us and how do we reach out to them and how do we get them to some kind of facility, that day. And having one person on the street is unacceptable. So my hope is that I've watched with the Downtown Association, they have a new social impact team. There's 4 to 5 people that are walking through downtown. You can see them engaging homeless people. We have a security company downtown that's made up of a lot of Afghanis, and they're extraordinarily kind and gracious. And you'll see they know the names of a lot of these homeless people. Our hope is that taking those relationships, we can start to move these people into whether it's hospitals or it's housing. But we have to do it one person at a time. And I think as a group here, how do we get involved in volunteering? How do we go on the street? How do we kind of almost have like a neighborhood watch to help kind of address some of these issues? Because if we're not rolling up our sleeves and getting involved, we're just going to be frustrated because the solutions are going to take that kind of a kind of grit. Dan?
Oh, my turn. My turn?
Yes.
Gary, I love your enthusiasm and your positive spirit, and I hope it's infectious. So in contrast, I ran into Mark Ritchie yesterday, and he gave me an earful, and he closed with, "Nothing will be built here for 10 years. So how do you respond to that, please?
I'll tell you, that's one of my biggest frustrations is I talk to a lot of people in San Jose that have been here for a long time that I really respect. But they say, here's the way the city has been going. It's never going to change. But if you go to places like Brooklyn, or if you go to places like Sydney or Vancouver, what we're talking about has been done numerous times, hundreds of times. So we won't be the first city to kind of cross this barrier. but we have to have some fortitude and some belief. That's why I talk about attitude. That attitude will kill this. The attitude that says bullshit, that we have the resources, we have all these things lined up, that we're going to start to execute upon them. That's the only way that I believe that we can start to get people over that hump. But I just think when I talk to Mark, it's like, Mark, listen, or even I talk to Tom McHenry, right? Like Tom is Tom is always, well, shit, the glass is half full. If we stay in that mindset, we will always be there. That's why I think 2024 is the year that we should get past that and really kind of understand and embrace the assets that the city has and drive forward.
Yes, we'll go to you next, and then we'll go to James, who's got the microphone, then we'll come up here, and then we'll go to Arthur. Please take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. I really enjoyed also the enthusiasm, though I also wondered how can that happen with all these cars in the city? And I feel like one solution needs to be really to address the traffic here. The traffic is always on top of everything, and it stretches, it breaks quarters apart. And when you talk about also people design, I just try to imagine how will that look like. I want to come with positivity and determination into downtown, but on the other hand, I get daily really frustrated to see I'm just a little ant crawling on the sidewalk among SUVs and, trucks that are not needed in the city. I wish we had more concerted action to also say this is the main problem. And the homeless, well, there will be places, free places, if we also free some space from the cars and from park houses. Okay, enough. You hear my vision.
Yeah, I do. Listen, I think the question thank you. I appreciate it. We spend a lot of time talking with different venture capital firms in different sectors because we think that we have to be able to construct buildings more cost effectively, more quickly. That's a big issue of how we unleash the city, but mobility is another. And so we spend a lot of time with Toyota Ventures, and if you got to see what some of these companies are working on right now, it's extraordinarily exciting. And things from vertical transportation, moving people around in a 3D mode as opposed to a 2D mode. I think there's a lot of different types of autonomous vehicles that tell us that we have plenty of road right now, but we lack efficiency of how we move people through those roads. So our hope is to use San Jose as kind of a test bed for some of these ideas, but we as a community have to embrace that because sometimes it's going to cause disruption. Sometimes we're going to make a mistake and we got to kind of reset, but you got to be open to new ideas. Fortunately, this stuff is right on the brink. It's right around us. Joby, I'm not sure if you guys know much about Joby, but they're right over in Santa Cruz. And they're doing a ton of stuff right now in New York City. They should be doing a ton of stuff here. And fortunately, the mayor has a relationship with them and is kind of working on some of these kind of relationships, but we have to look at these new solutions. In the VTA, we know that light rail is not working. Right. So, but all this right away is tremendous. So how do we start to leverage that right away and again, try out new things? So that's where I think as you come into the group that we're talking about, you'll see these ideas being discussed. Now the goal is how do we kind of pilot them? The question that you're talking about, though, specifically buses and cars kind of run up and down some of these streets, we need to slow them down. And when you slow them down, they're not as intimidating. If you go to a place like the Mission in San Francisco, cars move through there slowly. You don't really notice it. Here, cars move by quickly. So we need to help the police department get more police officers down here to kind of help slow these groups down. But that's what I think. It's slower traffic, it's more bicycles, and looking at new modes of transportation that will kind of boggle your mind if you got to see where some of these guys are going. Exactly.
James Williams. Hi, Gary. As you alluded to earlier about the entertainment districts that you and I have actually met and talked about, the South First Arts District is one of the most dense areas of San Jose for small live theater, small arts companies, the major arts companies, and incredible theaters. But we've been talking about things that can be done, and your company owns a lot and has a lot of plans for that area as well, which is exciting. But the arts companies are in great need of action and success in the foreseeable future. And what do you think can be done and should be done in the next 2 or 3 years to help that district grow and survive?
I think part of what we focus on is not making incremental change, but kind of doing something that's a lot better than just a little better. When I look at the Arts District, my youngest son went to Boulder, Colorado. And I'm not sure if any of you have ever been to Pearl Street in Boulder, but it's an amazing stretch of pedestrian walkway. It happens to be the exact same width of the south of First Street area. Not as long, but the exact same width. There they've removed traffic from the north-south corridor. They still keep the east-west open. But I believe things like, making that all a pedestrian corridor, just like San Pedro Square, just like we have at Santana Row, these things can be done. They're already being done in our city. And for some reason, they don't translate very well to downtown. I think that's from us not holding City Hall accountable and say we want things done more quickly, more cost effectively, and help these small businesses out. So, if it was up to me, I'd shut down that traffic on that south, that I call it the Arts District. And I think that would really help the smaller, businesses there, as well as all the arts organizations thrive. I also think there needs a better connection to the Civic National, to that kind of broader area to make sure that people come downtown. It's not a one-note city. There's a bunch of different areas that you can go to and explore and find and recognize, geez, we've got the Montgomery Theater, we have the Performing Arts Center, we have all the theaters and the Ritz, down on First Street. It goes on, the Improv. But we have to get people down here. That's why I go back to having a CMO telling this story to a broader audience and making people less intimidated by that city of San Jose. It's not quite as safe as I think it should be. It's a pretty unsafe city. And if you can compare it to San Francisco, it's a really safe city. We still need to do better. There's some things we can improve upon, but I think it's getting people down here and really creating these pedestrian walkways that are dead in other cities all the time.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
San Jose State University is growing in its reputation as a research university. They made a $150 million investment in what used to be the southern part of Fairmont. So we're going to have 1,000 Spartans right in the downtown. There's talk about master planning of Plaza de Cesar Chavez to make it all it can be. How do you see those elements integrating into your vision of creating a new experience in downtown? And let me finish with just on the entertainment side. There's an opportunity to make an impression on audiences that aren't jaded, like all of us may be, because we've been excited about the San Jose condition for decades. But these students and this new type of blood coming downtown, how do you see that also affecting the investments that need to be made here?
Well, listen, I think some of our parks are world-class parks. If you go to Lake Cunningham, it's an amazing facility, right? My partner's wife used to run marathons or triathlons, and they used to swim in Lake Cunningham. And that used to be part of the swimming thing. You wouldn't want to stick your toe in Lake Cunningham right now. So, something's happened with the allocation of money to some of these areas, right? So my belief is things like Cesar Chavez or Lake Cunningham, how do we bring in the private sector to help run and manage and fund these things? Because the city, unfortunately, doesn't have the funds to do them. And if we're going to do something, let's do it well. I mean, I go to Lake Cunningham, it's like they've got a great BMX park there. They've got a great skateboard park there. These are world-class facilities. No one knows about them, and no one treats them very well. So if we can do something, because I think that Cesar Chavez could be that kind of, how do we hold up this one project to say, let's get rid of all that traffic that spins around Cesar Chavez, because we don't really need that to be a thoroughfare. We could run things on Almaden Avenue and different places. So let's make that like a St. Mark's Square that you might see, right? So this becomes a true city center where we have restaurants, we have beautiful, music venues, we have lots of activity, and forget those 2 lanes of traffic that run around and don't really help anybody. But this is where the city's got to get bold. They got to try some things out. And again, it might not work the way we expect it to, but I guarantee what's happening right now isn't working. But it's an amazing asset. It's right in front of us that we just talk about. And I'm hoping that this new city hall is really going to start to do things about it and then give the private sector some opportunity to drive some of these initiatives. But it could be amazing.
Arthur.
You've taken the uphill, and we're all with you. Now, what about the fact that the commercial real estate market, I think, is in the toilet? My concern is whether Google's really going to build all this stuff, although they say they are. And could you just take the other pill and analyze that for us, please?
No.
Good answer.
Listen, I think the path to go down the other pill is the wrong path. I don't think it's even worth exploring because I'm not going to, diminish it, because the reality is that the commercial estate market is in a very difficult place right now. There's no two ways about it, right? I think it's starting to come back, but we have to recognize that when you go to places like Seattle or Vancouver, they have a master plan they're driving against. And so we just sometimes here don't seem to have that master plan. It's kind of block after block or building after building. And I think to attract more real estate investment, we have to show this broader vision of where this city can go. And we have to really demonstrate that we can execute on things like changing Cesar Chavez into a world-class park. I think once you start to see some of those initiatives, this entertainment district, you'll start to see very sophisticated, thoughtful money coming into this area. And it will make, at the end of the day, I think the real estate a lot more valuable. And the last thing I would tell you is that what holds the city back, and it's probably the elephant in the room, is that we just don't have enough housing. If you go to Vancouver, Vancouver's an amazing city. They have 140,000 people that live in an area about the size of downtown. It's actually 2x the size of downtown, but it's relatively similar. 140,000 people. That's when you go there, you feel this vibrancy. You see all this, kind of demonstration of why arts organizations and great restaurants want to come there. We have 25,000 people live in our downtown. So we have to find a way, working with City Hall, to get through almost a master development agreement so things can come to market much more quickly. But I also go back to that point about working with tech companies to help us understand how do we construct more effectively. We spend a lot of time with the unions, the Northern California Carpenters Union, great guys, MEP unions. We really find there's some great opportunities with them. What we have to do to help them is to give them a 10 or 12 year runway to say, guys, here's where we're going to build 20,000 units in the next 10 or 12 years. We're going to go to our supply chains. We're going to go to our how do we build a better workforce? How do we train that workforce more effectively? How do we make these buildings perform more effectively over the future? But if you're looking at year to year, project to project, you'll never get there. We have to say, here's the plan for 20,000 units. Here's what we're committed to doing. And I think City Hall can help us get a long way there. So ultimately, I hope the value of the real estate is going to, rise.
Thank you, President Karen. Gary, thank you. I'm Tim Hegstrom, Emeritus Faculty, San Jose State. I was particularly struck by your proposal for a collaborative on AI. My colleagues in that area tell me that the resource requirements are so high, it's hard for a lot of contributors, for example, at universities, et cetera, to be involved in the process. And since Chat GPT has come out, these large corporations are no longer sharing their proprietary research with scholars and others who could help with the research in those areas. It's not really science if you're not sharing it, and there's no way to make progress in that area if there's no collaboration.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Yeah, well, listen.
So a comment.
Yeah. And I go back to, it's not luck, right? What we're talking about here, and I'll tell you a little story. I happen to getting to know the CTO of Microsoft, and I'm not sure if you guys know Kevin Scott, but Kevin Scott's extraordinary, and he's one of the thought leaders in the sector. Kevin happens to live in Los Gatos. Kevin, he has this great career where he basically started off as a young engineer at Google, went to a place called AdMob, they got bought by Google, went to a young place called LinkedIn, they got bought by Microsoft, and he became the CTO of Microsoft. And he's arguably, I think in 2020 or 2021, he invested $1 billion into AI. The following year, he invested $11 billion. He's in. His daughters will be going to high school in downtown San Jose at Hillbrook High School. So Kevin's very invested. His wife is involved with the AI tech center or the tech center. So we have one of the greatest thought leaders around this subject matter right here. I went to their first kind of PTA meeting. At that PTA meeting, they had the chief scientist officer from Microsoft speaking and the CTO. So these are the kind of folks that are saying, we need to collaborate. And when I talked to Kevin, he goes, listen, we are all going to have our walls of competition. But if we don't come together and get the state involved and get the county involved, we're going to miss this opportunity. So I spent a lot of time talking to NVIDIA, a lot of time talking to IBM. And I can tell you, these groups recognize the opportunities in front of them, and they don't want to be short-sighted. But I'll tell you, the thing they really value is San Jose State. As most of you know, Apple and Google and Facebook, the amount of San Jose State students there, I don't think it's beyond compare. So we have that workforce economic engine already here. We need to demonstrate it and again, tell the story better than we tell it today. But that's what they need. They need an engine to drive these things forward. But I think San Jose State will be in the middle of it all. But you guys have to get really aggressive. I think Cynthia's doing a great job of saying, hey, I want to get involved in downtown. I want to get involved in initiatives like this. We need to make some progress here in the next 6 months. Yeah, absolutely.
Go Spartans. Go Spartans. Carl Solis. We have to be smarter than the microphone.
Thank you, I'm sorry. Hey, Gary, 2 questions, unrelated. Number 1, so I'm hoping you know something different than I. You want to get something done in the next 6 months this year. I see this place like you do. It's incredible opportunities here. And City Hall with Matt, it's really changing, but the city isn't. Every time I talk to somebody in the city, it's like, huh? Do you have a different experience than I do, or do you have more hope than I do about actually having the city, not the city hall, but the city with a weak mayor, being able to actually get behind the kind of things you're talking about?
You know, if you look back, and again, I don't know enough about politics, but there had been in this weak mayor system, mayors like Tom McHenry, or there's some other mayors who've got a lot of things accomplished, right? I think a lot is in how you perceive yourself as a mayor. I think if you see yourself as a stronger mayor, you can actually get more things done. But you have to be very collaborative, right? And we have to start to bring together these 10 council members. And the thing that's hurting the city right now is this stupid discussion about labor versus business. I just don't get it. I mean, I really don't. And like when we talk to the unions, we say, hey, listen, here's what we want to do. We don't really care about $62 versus $65. What I care about is having a guy who's building, or a woman building one of our buildings, having to commute 4 hours a day. That is ridiculous. Google would never do that. So if we want to create an innovative environment, and an environment that really respects the people who are going to build this city or serve this city as a police officer or a firefighter, they have to live in the city. They have to live in the city they build or that they protect. So when the unions are saying all we care about is, $62 an hour, it's like, guys, how do we start to build a bunch of housing here so your folks that are going to ultimately build this city for the next 10, 12 years are already here? How do we make sure that they feel innovative? They're tied in these different technologies. They're kind of driving this sector forward. Those are the kind of things we need to do. Because when I hear some of these silly council member debates, I know I can hear sometimes labor saying, it's all about labor, or business saying it's too much about business. Everyone benefits by having a city that thrives and that builds, 20,000 units in the future. But the leaders who are unwilling to kind of come to the table and are just too philosophical, we need to take them out. We really do. Enough is enough. This city needs to move forward as a team. And so that's why I come back to accountability. If you're getting in the way just because you have the small slice that you're trying to protect, we should really call that out. And if you're not, you're breaking down barriers and moving the city forward. Let's highlight that. Let's kind of say this, let's hold this person on a pedestal. It's right in front of us, but I still think there's some people at City Hall that are very good. And we worked on a bunch of projects with them. So I know there's great people there, but there's still kind of an old guard that sits in part of that building that is not going to change. And so I'm hoping that Jennifer and Matt can work together with the council members to say, where are those people? How do we replace them? Because what's been going on for the last 10 years isn't working. And let's try to find a new course that we can follow and just see how it turns out. Because today it's not working the way it could.
Hey, real quick, thank you. Real quick, getting back to Judge Arch, I don't know you well enough, but I believe that you're associated with the Bank of America building, with the Boatown project, and with that really cool piece of art that's across from the California. Could you talk short term, what's going on with those? Do you mind?
Sure. Listen, the financing markets have been brutal, right? Fortunately that we're finally moving forward with Bank of Italy. It's taken us forever. But what we're going to be doing in Bank of Italy is the ground floor is going to be more of a retail kind of component. We're still kind of working on what that can be. We have a great, second floor tenant there that will be one of the first cities in California to have this club that will be driving there, and the rest will be residential. And that kind of comes back to our perspective that residential is going to kind of lead us out of where we're at right now. We got to get another 20 or 30,000 people living in downtown. Boatown, which is the right there at 2nd and San Salvador, will be breaking ground on that in the next few months. That'll be 28-story building, 540 units. It'll be some of the nicest units around. And we're getting close to working on a very large affordable housing project. And what we find fascinating about this affordable housing project, we've been working with the city and the state, and our goal is to build a project that has 3 different components to it. It would have supportive housing, it would have affordable housing, and it would have market rate housing. And to really address affordable housing, sometimes, and I think here's where the city got some things wrong, they just focus on affordable at a very specific segment, as opposed to saying, hey, housing is high end to low end and everything in between. And that's the way to address it. So we're hoping with this project that we can show we're gonna have supportive housing, and in supportive housing, we wanna have single moms or young families with job training and childcare. So now I, as a mother, can drop my kid off, I can go get some training, and hopefully that we want to focus on the hospitality industry, then go walk to my job and not have to have a car. Then if you actually, get that job and you're making forward progress, I can then move into the affordable housing component and ultimately get to market rate. But these things have to be done in sequence. It's not just, one little arrow. So that's kind of what our hope is, to kind of drive forward on those kind of projects. We can do that. I mean, we create some of the most sophisticated technology in the world. Like I always tell people, this is rocket science. What we're doing is just simple, good urban planning that's been done all over the world for hundreds of years. Let's get off our asses and stop making excuses, and stop taking that pill, and really kind of say, how are we going to move forward?
All right. Last question, Bert George.
Last question. Gary, you're very accomplished. I love the speech today, but I have one question.
No, Bert, no.
Hello.
How are your tractor skills?
And listen, I will tell you, it's a funny story that I visited Bert's winery, and he let me drive his tractor, and I screwed up a bunch of his irrigation system. So Bert, sorry about that. But the wine was great. But this goes to one last point I'll make, is that this is where this city has so much opportunity. When you come here for a convention, you love to be able to touch Monterey, you'd love to be able to touch the Santa Cruz Mountains, you'd love to touch Napa, but sometimes you don't have the time to do it. So how do we start to bring some of those opportunities, here, right? And I think Bert's kind of created an enclave of, if you go into his wine shop, it feels like you're going to a different place. How do we do that at scale here in downtown? So now I can come here and visit Napa, I can visit Sonoma, I can visit the Santa Cruz Mountains, because this is really part of the fabric of what we have here. And so those are some of the things that, again, make us unique, are huge opportunities for us. And as long as I'm not driving tractors, I guarantee we'll have plenty of wine.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you so much. You're great. All right. Well, thank you so much for those wonderful comments. We've made a donation to Loaves and Fishes in your honor, and we really appreciate you spending time with us today. And I'm particularly intrigued on how you're tying performance to accountability and metrics to demonstrate that success. And I applaud that vision, and I look forward to watching what you will do here in our great city. Next week, you won't want to miss our own Suzanne St. John Crane talking about a journey through the civil rights movement. It will be wonderful. And then in my final thoughts for today, remember, leadership is less about the title you hold and more about the influence you exercise. Exercise it wisely, as your touch points may seem small, yet the ripple effects extend far beyond what you can see. Be kind. I'll see you next week.